Hello, my name is Jeff Davis, Director of the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities, and welcome. We are so happy you're here with us. We're here today to unveil our information technology application for Ohio ISP. I'm excited about this. I hope you are and will be when you see it. A couple of things right up front. As we think about the Ohio ISP, I would ask you, and I'm sure that many of you already are, but think about how you might begin, even in paper form, using the assessment and the ISP. Practice on yourselves, practice with others, focus on the assessment because it is different. And it's going to be different as we move forward because it's such an essential piece of what we're trying to do. So one can role play, one can continually ask questions. There are a number of ways to get comfortable with it, to use it in paper form, and ultimately as we're online. And the same with the ISP. It is a path and it's a journey. So, start now if you can. The more comfortable you can become, the more you get, more and more of an understanding of what we're trying to accomplish, all of us. The more familiar it will become and the easier it will be to set up ultimately through our teams and our conversations with people how to best take advantage of what we have created. So I appreciate that. With the Ohio ISP IT application, it will be the first time ever that we have all of our ISPs in one place with access for team members to see it, the ease of use and the continual ways in which it can be adapted and modified as we continue to focus on the assessment and the plan. So thank you so very much for that. It's already started through regional teams. We're having meetings and conversations. We're learning, right? That's the goal. We're learning, we're listening, all of us together as we do this. And we'll continue to do that in the coming months into the new year, obviously, as we're all working to get as close as we can to being on the same page and make this truly the kind of functional, foundational kind of move in the way that we wish. So I am grateful for you. I'm excited about today. I hope you see and feel what we're excited about so that you can be too. And thank you for joining us.
Welcome to the Ohio ISP. In this video, we'd like to demonstrate the system as both an individual and as an SSA or QIDP. First, let's take a look from the perspective of an individual.
When an individual logs on to Ohio ISP, the first thing they'll notice is the nice clean layout. At the bottom we have 5 tiles that are easy to access that have details, team, plans, chatter, and my documents. These are also found at the navigation bar at the top. Let's look at details. This is an easy place to go and make sure that all of your details have been entered correctly into the system. For example, if you change your address but can't remember if you've notified your SSA, you can always come here, log in, and see if it's been updated. Next, we have your team members. These are all the people that are associated with the individual. We also have all of the individual's plans. They can be reordered by status, by the ISP name, by the date they were created, which makes them a lot easier to sort through. Next, we have chatter. We'll talk a little more about this later on, but for now, just think of it as sort of an in-house social media system. Next, we have my documents, those that are owned by me, shared by me, and that I've recently viewed. Finally, we have help with some helpful links and contacts. One other nice feature that's in here is if you go to My Messages, you can use this sort of like a one-stop shop for emailing people who are on your team. So for example, if I want to email my SSA, I put in a subject line, a message, and click send. Then when I get a response, not only will I receive an email at my own personal email address, but then I'll also get a response here. And there will be a little symbol at the top where the notification bell is.
I'd like to walk you through the system from the perspective of an SSA or a QIDP. When you first log in, you'll land on your dashboard. Now, if you were also a supervisor admin, you'd see a very similar dashboard. Yours would just have some additional reports listed. For example, open tasks for all those who report to you, and a list of individuals needing assigned to an SSA. The first thing you'll notice is a blue bar going across the top of your screen with some very helpful links. The first two being Contacts and Accounts. If I click on Contacts, I can search for any person in the system, including individuals, other SSAs, providers, just to name a few. If you need to create a new contact, there is a New button in the upper right-hand side. The Accounts link is very similar, where you can search for items such as a provider agency. You can also create a new account here as well. Next, we have Tasks. This will display all the various tasks that have been assigned to you and gives you the option to create a new task directly from this screen. Later, we'll see additional ways to create tasks. The Reports link provides an assortment of pre-made reports. I can revisit reports I've recently viewed, or I can select All Reports. Here you can see the total number of reports available to you, such as add-ons by county and provider, ISP changelog reports, my ISPs, my open tasks and overdue tasks, my upcoming plan review, outcomes progress, restrictive measures progress, and upcoming plan review. Now, if you're someone who really loves digging into the data, you also have the option of creating a custom report just by clicking on the New Report button. The system will walk you through the process of creating a new report. Simply select the report type desired and click Continue. Here you can have the ability to add columns, groupings, and filters. Going back to the blue bar, we also have Documents. Here you can view files that you've uploaded or that have been shared with you by someone else. You also have the ability to upload files by clicking on the Upload Files button. To the right of my documents is the Chatter link. The Chatter is similar to an instant messenger where you can have one-on-one conversations or conversations with an entire team. To reach out to someone specifically, just use the @tag feature. Here, let me show you. Just type the @ and begin typing the person's name and click. And then finally, type your message. They'll receive the message on their end in their Chatter feed. But if they're not currently in the system, they'll also receive an email letting them know that you're reaching out to them. If I scroll down, I can see various conversations I've had with an individual, a provider, and even my supervisor. And if I want to respond, I can just type something in the comment box. In addition to creating a post, you can also send out questions, and you can create a custom poll. Just some different ways you can use this communication tool. And then up at the blue bar, we of course have the Help link. This provides resources such as user guides and a link to the rules in effect located on the DoDD website. If you need to search for a person or an item, you can use the global search, which will enable you to search for not only individuals, providers, SSAs, but also ISPs and files. You can search for just about anything here. Now that we've covered the blue bar at the top, let's move down the screen. First, you'll notice a list of recently viewed contacts. And to the right of that, a list of my recent plans. Scrolling down further, we have easy access to several reports that would be of particular interest to an SSA, such as individuals assigned to me, my ISPs, my open tasks, my overdue tasks, plans needing review, and my upcoming plan review. And then finally to the right, you have the ability to enter chatter posts and look at your chatter feed directly from the dashboard. Now let's take a look at an individual's contact page. The individual we're going to be looking at today is Arthur Fonzarelli. Now there are many ways to get to Arthur's contact page. We could use the global search. We could come down to recently viewed contacts and click on his name there, or go down to individuals assigned to me and click on Arthur's name. The first thing you may notice is the Management Assignment button located at the top of the screen. If I were the supervisor or admin, I could click this button and assign the individual to one of my SSAs. Moving to the right, as an SSA, I can add a new relationship to the individual, such as a family member. Or I can click on Manage Relationships to remove a relationship if necessary. We can also upload a picture to his profile page, clicking the arrow and choosing Upload Picture. This is how Arthur's picture was added to his contact page. Below his picture, we have a place to add new tasks and new events. Just click the Add button and fill in the information, including subject, a due date. It's already assigned to me, but I could change that and assign it to someone else. Arthur's name is filled in, and I could relate this to another account as well, such as a provider agency. If I want to schedule a meeting or a phone call, for example, I can create an event just like I would a task. Both the tasks and events related to Arthur are listed below. Tasks have green icons, and events have pink calendar icons, just to make them stand out at a quick glance. Moving over to the main section of the individual's contact page, we first see the individual's details tab. Here you'll find all the basic demographic information about Arthur, including his name, the assigned case manager, contact information, Social Security number, birth date, individual Medicaid information, waiver information if Arthur is supported by a waiver, associated county, and DODD number. Everything you need to know at a quick glance about Arthur is listed here on the Details tab. We also have a Related tab. This includes everyone on Arthur's team in the Related Accounts section. We have ISP signature data, a list of ISP records. Not only does it include the start and the end date, but it also gives you the status, so you can easily determine which records are historical and which ISP is his current active ISP. Below we have addresses, open activities, self-admin assessments, activity history, the ISP changelog, paths to community employment, and finally files that have been uploaded to Arthur's record. And if I want to add a new file, I just click on the Add Files button. Now let's take a look at Arthur's current ISP by clicking on the link located at the top of the page. On the ISP itself, the first thing you'll notice is the header row going across the top of your screen. It offers some basic information about the ISP, including Arthur's name, the status, start and end date, and days until the next annual review. If I come over here and I hover over Arthur's name, it's going to give me some basic information about him, including DODD number, email address, assigned case manager, and waiver information if Arthur is supported by a waiver. You're going to find this capability all throughout the OhioISP system. Just hover over a link to find additional information. Below the header row, we have what is called the workflow. It's a helpful tool that will guide you through the process of creating the ISP. If you're not sure what to do in a particular section of the workflow, just click that section, click the arrow on the left, and it's going to give you some guidance for success. But we'll see more about the workflow later in this video. The first tab I'd like to show you is the Individuals Information tab. At the top, you'll see OhioISP details, including things like the ISP name, the status, start and end dates, and review dates. Below the details section, we have Introduction. This is just to help you get to know Arthur a little bit better. It answers questions such as things that are important to me or for me, what people like about me, and how you can support me. And if you notice, I have some of the text in blue, some in black, and some in red. This is just to show you that with this section, you can get kind of creative with it, just as you would using a Word document. Below the introduction section, we have contact information and demographics, address information, contact details, and medical information, including the Medicare and Medicaid ID. Now that I've begun the ISP, including the basic information on the Individuals Information tab, I'm going to look at the workflow to see how I can get started. And the first thing it shows is the Discovery Assessment. And the system provides a Discovery Assessment button right here in the upper right-hand corner. Let's click it to get started. Now I already have a Discovery Assessment that I've begun for Arthur. And when it opens, it'll first land on the Assessment Introduction page where the system provides some general information. Just click Next. The assessment is made up of 7 different sections such as communication, advocacy and engagement, safety and security. Now in this case, I chose social and spirituality, daily life and employment, and healthy living. And if you notice, on the right-hand side, we have those sections listed, so I can easily navigate throughout the assessment. So let's take a look at the healthy living section. The first feature I'd like to point out is the information bubble on each of the questions. These bubbles provide information to help answer the question. Just gives you extra tips on what that question is looking for. And you'll find these information bubbles not just in the Discovery Assessment, but throughout the OhioISP system. Particularly helpful if you're new to the assessment or new to the system. The form is also dynamic. For example, if I choose yes on a question, it pops up another box to explain further. If I click no, that box will go away. And if I have a lot of information to put in one of the question boxes, I can place my cursor at the bottom right, click and drag it, and make it as big or as small as I'd like. That way I can see all the information I typed in here all at once without having to scroll. Now, one of the reasons I chose the healthy living section is because of the question about, does the person need help with medication? If I choose no, I have nothing further to add. But if I choose yes, it asks me to select the self-admin assessments to include in the discovery assessment. And in this case, I selected oral and topical medication. Now what's going to happen because I chose that is it's going to create a task for me in my list of open tasks to create that self-admin assessment, so I don't forget to do it later. And as we scroll down the screen, we also have the opportunity to add important twos and important fours and skills and abilities specifically related to the healthy living section. I can also add a known and likely risk. All I have to do is click the new button, add my risk, and click Save. But I already have one, so I don't need to add it at the moment. But I could remove it if I'd like, just by clicking the X. We also have supports. And if I chose a paid support, for example, it asks me for paid support notes. I can put some information in here, and what the system is going to do is it's going to create a placeholder on Arthur's ISP for a paid support related to the healthy living section, so I don't forget to add that information in later. I can also add a potential outcome. By clicking on that, it gives me the opportunity to add potential outcome notes, and that's going to do the same thing as the paid support notes. It's going to create a placeholder outcome on Arthur's ISP that is directly related to the healthy living section. And then finally, I could save for later, and if I do that, when I open up the discovery assessment again, it'll take me right back to this spot. But I'm done, so I'm going to click on Next. And here we have what's working and what's not working. Just by clicking New, I can add what's working, what's not working, and I can also add who said that. And finally click Next. And here we can submit and attach this discovery assessment to Arthur's ISP. Back on Arthur's ISP, we see that we now have a task to create a new self-administration assessment. To do that, we come up to the top right and click the New Self-Assessment button. I'll choose the ISP that I want this assessment to be attached to. I could select an existing assessment if I already have one completed, or click Next to start a brand new assessment. Choose the assessment template. In this case, I chose oral and topical medication. Add a completed date and click Next. At this point, the basis for the self-administration assessment has been created. In order to find it, we'll go to the Assessment Summary tab. Here we can see summary information from the discovery assessment that we've already completed. If I scroll down, I'll find the self-administration assessment section. We could open the one that I just created, but I'd like to show you an example of a completed assessment. Choose the assessment, and then click Launch Assessment in the upper right-hand corner. On the assessment questions, we can add the setting, we can add the person performing the assessment, and the name of a second observer. Then we can answer the questions. At this point, we have the opportunity to save the assessment, or add results and other considerations, and then finally submit the assessment by clicking the Submit Assessment button. Now that we've completed the discovery assessment, reviewing of the assessment summary information, and created the self-administration assessment, we can mark the first two sections of our workflow as complete. The next item on the workflow is risks. Let's click the Risks tab. Here we can address any risks that were identified during the discovery assessment or add additional risks by clicking the New button in the Risks section. Once all the risks information has been added, let's mark this section complete on the workflow as well. The next two items on the workflow are Outcomes and Services and Support. If you recall, on the discovery assessment, we selected a checkbox for a potential outcome as well as a paid support in the Healthy Living section. I did the same in the Social and Spirituality section as well, so the system created placeholders for all those items. First, we'll click on the Outcomes tab. Here we have two outcomes listed. Let's take a look at the placeholder from the Healthy Living section. It pulled in the description from the discovery assessment, and now it's ready for me to fill in the rest of the information. Now we'll take a look at an outcome where I've completed several of the fields already. As you can see, I filled in some additional information such as details to know. On Outcome Experiences, I've added a couple of experiences with things like what needs to happen, how should it happen, who's responsible, and how often. I can also add what the progress will look like in the next section. And finally, if I want to create a new outcome, I can simply click the Add button at the very bottom of the page. If I've completed all the outcome information, I can go back up to my workflow and mark this section as complete. So far, we've completed the discovery assessment, the self-admin assessment, risks, and the outcomes. Next, we'll look at services and support. Let's click on the Services and Supports tab. Just like our outcomes, we have two items created from the discovery assessment. One is an empty placeholder, and the second is a placeholder where I've gone in and filled in additional information. Let's click on that one. As you can see, it pulled in the assessment area and the fact that this is a paid support. But I've also gone in and added additional information, such as the provider and the provider service, and how often the service is needed. If we go to the Related tab, there's a place to upload files that are directly related to this service. Just click the Add Files button. And as is often the case, we have an extra feature in the upper right-hand corner. Here you have the ability to make a clone of this service, just in case you have another one that is very similar. That way, you'll save time because you don't have to retype fields that include the same information. And now, our service is complete. So let's mark it so in the workflow. The last step on the workflow is Connections. Let's click on the Consents tab. Here we can add information pertaining to restrictions in the Participation and Informed Consent Agreement section. Below this section, we can find data related to ISP signatures where we can see who has signed the plan. Now they can sign the plan either digitally or in person. If a team member is signing in person, we can click on the record, answer any available questions, we can upload the signed document, and click Submit. And finally, we can easily add important connections to Arthur in the Important Connections section by clicking on the New button. I'd like to show you a couple of other tabs available on the ISP. The first one being Changes History. Here we can see the ISP history, and below the history we see a change log, which includes where a change was made, who made that change, and the date and time of the change. Next to Changes History, we have Chatter. Here we can post to the Chatter feed that is directly related to this ISP. In other words, this feed is a way to collaborate with Arthur's entire team. Anything posted will be seen by all who have access to Arthur's information, so everyone can join in on the conversation. Moving to the right side of your screen, we have tasks and events that are related directly to this ISP. Below the tasks and events, we have a Files section, which allows you to add additional files by clicking on the Add Files button. Below Files, we have Notes and Open Activities. The last thing I'd like to show you is all the various options you have by clicking on the drop-down menu in the upper right of your screen. First, I can create a printable view of my screen. Next, I can add a new note. Now, a note is different than Chatter. Chatter is more of a conversation, a collaboration tool. Notes, on the other hand, allow you to add information which could include things like numbered or bulleted lists, even images, and tie it directly to this ISP. If I click Add to Records at the bottom, I have the option to prevent this note from being viewed by anyone other than me. Essentially, it becomes a private note. If I click Share at the bottom, I can share this note with specific people and add a message. Next, I can submit this plan to my manager for approval. I can see the changes since it was last signed. I can create a new plan version. Here, I can create a new plan based on this one. It will pull all the information into the new plan and then allow me to go in and make any of the necessary updates. I can cancel the plan, can make the plan inactive, change the owner, can even generate a document, such as the discovery assessment, the introduction, or the ISP itself, and it will automatically place this file in the Files section below. I can activate without ISP signatures, and finally, I can request ISP signatures whether the team member wants to sign it digitally or in person, and the system will step you through the process. We first put in the reason for the signature and click Next. And now we'll go through each person on the team. In this case, we have the person supported, Arthur Fonzarelli. Arthur will be signing digitally, and he participated in planning. We have a guardian. They'll sign digitally. The provider, he wants to sign in person. Success. And now we'll see how Arthur can easily pull up his ISP either on his computer or smartphone and sign it digitally.
All right, so on the individual's end, after the SSA has sent out for signatures, what will happen is that this individual will receive an email. So hello, Arthur. Looking SSA 1 has requested your signature. Review Arthur's Ohio ISP info here and sign to approve. The nice thing about this is that we could just click here and it will take us straight to where we sign in. So they don't need to try to find where to go. It takes them straight there. So we have our team member signature page. So all we have to do is click that we accept each of these. You select yes, yes, and yes, and it allows us to proceed to signing. At this point, we can either sign to approve, or if we have a dissenting opinion, we can click that we don't agree with the supports outlined in the plan. But for our purposes here, we're going to click this one here. The date will automatically populate, and then we click submit. And it's done. So at this point, it will actually automatically send an email back to the SSA, letting them know that Arthur has signed his plan. Now, for Arthur, he can, at this point, he can review the plan if he would like. So it has all the information that we saw earlier from the SSA's view. So we can look over all the details here. Click next. We can expand or collapse any of these sections to read more. Next. So all of our supports. Next. Our contact info, and then we're done. We'll click done. And this takes us back to the ISP page.
We hope you've enjoyed our demo of the Ohio ISP. Thank you and have a great day.